There is a question. What is the genetic seed business like in terms of enhancing crops in general to be resilient to the negative effects of climate change? That's from Mariam Rumani.
It says what? The question? What is there?
Genetic seed business. So GMOs in seeds,
Mm.
in
The
terms of
seed banks,
enhancing crops.
the seed banks.
Yes. Yes, I think
Okay.
it is research into genetic
Mm.
modification of seeds.
Into GMOs. So, but
Yes.
with fruit trees, because I hardly work with the cash crops. I mainly work with fruit trees, wherein we do grafting and we look at the rootstocks. So we give this information to the breeders to say we don't breed. We will do the data collection and analyze what is really happening in the ground, and you say these are the problems we are facing. Can you guys breed the cultivars which will resist these kind of conditions, or will be suitable for these kind of conditions. So this is what we that's what we do. So when I was at the University of Free State, I will give that to the breeders, to the plant
Uh,
breeding section, and say, okay guys, this is the situation now. Can you help us come up with a solution? And then if they come up with a solution, then they can conduct trials in the greenhouses, and then before we take those samples or those seedlings into the field and see how will they survive there.
uh, okay, interesting. It's not really an issue of
Mhm.
genetic modification.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then there's a question from Ronald Rachwashwa. Are all crops or trees compatible with agrivoltaics?
Uh, that's why I said we need to explore this kind of research in South Africa, because research is been done in Australia on pears and on apples and on pomegranates. So
Okay.
if we need to embark on a research and conduct and try and conduct trials here in South Africa on different fruit trees and on different crops, and see the effect of this, and if there will be benefits or negative impacts or positive impacts. I think it will be, I will pose it as a challenge to researchers and funders to say, guys, what is your take on this? And then funder or researchers can start writing proposal or learning about this, and then start writing proposals about
Okay,
this.
fantastic. Here's a question from Samkelisiwe Sibayeni. He says, I'm doing a PhD in agrivoltaics and wish to learn from the research work you've done. Can I be in touch in order to include what you presented in my research?
Yes, no problem. I can drop down my email.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. There's someone who thanked you for the informative presentation. The presentations will be on the event page, by the way, the NSTF event page, and there Pomutso has shared his email address. Thank you very much,
Thank
Pomutso.
you.
Okay, any other questions? I've got a question. Um,
Yes.
this idea of putting netting your orchards, that's that's interesting to me that it makes such a huge difference to the water use of the trees. And it is a reasonably low tech and therefore reasonably cheap option.
Mhm.
Is anyone supporting farmers in implementing that? Is there
Using
some kind of
different nets,
sponsorship?
shade nets. There is a research which was been done by, I think, Dr. Zikiti on water use under shade nets, which was funded by WRC, if I'm not
Uh-huh.
mistaken. So
Right.
I think we might try to find out the results from that study, and see how effective it is in terms of water use. And also, because we cannot just look at water use, but we must also look at the quality of the fruits under those different shade nets. And also, what we can embark on is looking at shade nets of different colors, and also how will they regulate the water, the evapotranspiration rate, or the transpiration of those trees.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yes, and
I
because the
see.
shade nets can also, or the hail net, there are hail nets and shade nets. They can also protect against hail or sunburn, depending on the
Right.
fruit tree that you are fruits that you are producing.
Right. Seems like a very efficient measure to take. in the
Yeah.
circumstances. Very interesting indeed. I also found it interesting how farmers need to look at whether the chill units are still sufficient in their areas to produce the kind of fruits that they're producing. And climate change will definitely affect that. Stephanie Mitchley
Right.
says, water use
Yeah.
of apples under shade nets, WRC report available on the WRC website.
Website.
Midgley et
Yes.
al.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I know Prof. Majli, she has been working on that project. Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much, Stephanie. Okay. Let me just give a last check here on the Q&A. I don't think there are any further questions, so we
Okay.
can release you. Pomutso, thank you very much indeed for your presentation. It was extremely interesting, and we could have listened to you all day, I think.
Thank you.
Thank you. Right. Now let's go back to the reason for having this discussion forum. And that is that we wanted to look at the interconnections between climate change, environmental challenges, water, and foods. And I think that these presentations have shown us amply how they are connected to each other. What can be done? From Prof. Lisa Korsten, we've had some emphasis on creating capacity, training up students who understand how things work and are able to do the monitoring and the research that is required. She also said that we need laboratories that are accredited. And although it is hard to establish such laboratories, and obviously it requires funding, it's very important to have comparable results when you are testing food for safety. So that is something that can be done, is the establishment of laboratories. And I have no idea how many laboratories there are across the countries at universities and at the ARC. Does anyone have an idea of the prevalence of accredited laboratories? So that's a question to the audience. I don't see anyone jumping up and down, but let's recap further. Prof. Corsten also spoke about the informal sector, and she said that we've got an ideal situation in South Africa where we can compare the best of a formal system with the informal sector, and that they can inform each other. I think that's the point of it. There are certain things that need to happen to help the informal traders and small farmers. And if I remember correctly, that is about awareness, but it's also about having safe water sources. And that is like a not negotiable at all. Safety of food is reliant on the safety of water very directly. And it affects consumers, not only consumers of water, but consumers of fresh foods. So it is very important. She spoke about the training of regulators, training of various people in government, partnerships across the world. What I found quite shocking was that you expect to find E. coli contaminating street foods, and these are multi-drug resistant forms of E. coli, but it is also found in commercial fresh produce. So it is not only the small farmers and the informal sector that is affected by this. Then there was the issue of public awareness. So the public needs to be aware of the importance of cleaning their fresh produce, using safe water sources. There are various forms of awareness that needs to be heightened. And if you've got some ideas of those, please share those with us here. There was a question about incorporating that into the education system, into the curriculum, and Prof. Corsten approved of that and said it's very urgent to actually have water issues, water safety issues, food safety issues in the school curriculum. I'm just seeing a posting in the chat from Maria Fernandez-Wali. ISO IEC 17025 accredited chemical and microbiological testing laboratories are available on the SANAS website. Thank you very much indeed, Maria. So there you can see the SANAS accredited testing laboratories. My further question is are those adequate? Are there sufficient numbers of such laboratories with sufficient capacity, or do we need more of them? And where does that support come from? Okay, right. There was some talk during the question section about filtration systems. And apparently the Gauteng Department of Agriculture is doing good work in this regard, providing filtration systems to small farmers. And Prof. Corsten also emphasized the need to support small farmers. There are lots of solutions, she says, but they cost money. Right, then the municipalities. The municipalities, we know, of course, are struggling to make ends meet at all, and there are very serious service delivery issues. And I think that the biggest problem is water, access to water, and the safety of water. So, what do you think about that? Will we make any headway in this space if the municipalities don't do their work? Okay, then we had a presentation by Sansa, and it's interesting what space observation can pick up, among others, about crop health, anomalies among crops, and yield predictions. And there was a question what these anomalies are and what kind of crops are monitored. So I don't know whether we can still get an answer to that question. That would be very interesting.
Am I audible?
Yes.
I think I did give some answer on the chat regarding some of the things that we do monitor and crop types that we have at the moment, where I indicated that we have some work on apples, maize, sugarcane, avocado, where we are monitoring crop stress, water use, crop water requirements, amongst other things, where we are looking at the anomalies in those for us to be able to tell us what's going on with regards to the crops and its response to climate change phenomenon within the areas that we are monitoring. And then there's the part of the question was that how is the information communicated to the relevant industry? So at the moment, we don't have a good established platform, so we rely on the bi-weekly reports to some of our stakeholders that we are producing the data for. However, we are building mobile apps like the Smart Water Use app that would be based on Earth observation data and the models that we have already, which will then allow the farmers to be able to do a live tracking of the crop anomalies as they are sitting in the comfort of their own home. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Thank you very much, Siyamthanda. Yes, I see you answered there in writing. Apples, maize, sugarcane, avocados, any anomalies are then communicated through bi-weekly reports that we send to stakeholders. Wonderful. Oh gosh, we'll watch this space and see what transpires. Okay, then we had a presentation by Leo Chilwani from the Ulwazi node at Sion, which was also extremely interesting. And what struck me there was the incredible complexity of the data that they work with. So there's all kinds of disciplines and sectors involved, and that causes some unique challenges in terms of data management. I liked that expression of big data challenges from small data sets. Very interesting. Leo also highlighted the importance of data preservation for the long term. So although research projects or monitoring needs may be of a short-term nature, the data needs to be preserved for a long time, and it must be safe against cyber attacks. It must be physically safe, the infrastructure in which it is held. And it must be able to withstand lack of funding, natural disasters, and there must be available human capacity at all times. I was wondering about whether that is how that is going in terms of human capacity. I mean, you have indicated it as a challenge, but how imminent is that risk, in fact? Are we getting enough data managers being trained up to serve the needs of science?
That is an interesting question, because it only gets more complicated as the data holdings grow. So even though we can get data managers trained up, that's why I raised the AI issue on data scientists as well, because we do have internal data scientists, but when it comes to putting out work in a timely manner, we find that we've got to reach out to other organizations and partner with them as well. So I think we look at capacity building from an internal point of view, but where we can, we do try to partner up with other organizations as well, especially around the decision support systems. So we have, for example, partnerships with the Centers for Global Change at your historically disadvantaged universities, where we try to capacitate the students as well on data intensive skills, but alongside that try to host their outputs as well and spotlight them.
Oh, very interesting. Yes, NSTF does a bit of career guidance to school learners, and although we stress that that IT is incredibly important and they have to upskill themselves, skill themselves in future in IT directions, it is not always clear, what in IT will be valuable. And there are, there's such a variety of qualifications that people can get. What is it that data managers need, when you're doing career guidance?
It's an interesting question. So that's why I showed the 4 areas of work that, like the team that highlighted, because on the one hand, you might need computer scientists to do systems development work, but the other aspect of environmental data science involves the research side of things, understanding the environmental sciences would also be critical. So balancing that with technical skills is also critical. And then there's the data governance aspect, where you find that people trained up in that are usually from a library information system management point of view. So bringing all those skills together is necessary. And then obviously on the infrastructure side, you do have your core IT work, like systems administration and so on.
Right. Very interesting. Thank you very much. Right. Audience, please put your virtual hands up. We still have a few speakers with us. We're lucky to have them here. Leo, Siamtanda, Sylvester, and Pumutso. And please ask some questions. Yes, Anne Fitchett.
Yeah, I posted a question on the Q&A that I'd just like a bit of really just to raise it in the context of this nexus of water, food, and climate change. And one of the things that I've been working on with my students is around the problem of waste. So when you think that, for instance, unaccounted for water in many of the municipalities in South Africa are sitting around 40%. So that's nearly half of the water that we have now purified, we've processed, we've made it to drinking water quality. 40% of that is just disappearing because of leaks in the system and poor maintenance and so on. And then the other thing that I've been working on is around food waste. And once again, you're looking at really quite horrifying statistics in terms of how much food is being wasted in the system. And once again, if we were able to capitalize on that, a lot of the issues around poverty and hunger and so on would be solved simply by better management of what we're already generating.
Indeed. Is your comment or question aimed at a particular speaker?
No, really just if any of the panelists know of any research that is being done around that.
Yes. Pomutso, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you. On wastewater, using wastewater treatment, or because for us, we based our research mainly on water from the water irrigation schemes, which are directly from different dam systems and not mainly on wastewater. But there is a study, I think, which was done at Stellenbosch University, wherein they look at wastewater from the I think they're working when they're doing from the pack houses on what do they use it for. I think it's been used for as gray water for irrigation again. More especially, I think those who are practicing permaculture and also rainwater harvesting, they are gray water systems. Those who are mainly in gray using gray water, I think they are the ones who can give us a clue on how effective they can use those water systems. But if we are working in commercial farming, we mainly depend on the water supply from different irrigation bodies, or irrigation water schemes, not really from grey water systems.
Right. Does anyone else want to respond to that? Of course, cautioned against using grey water on crops, which I found interesting. I suppose that one would just have to manage it very carefully and not irrigate your greens, your leafy greens with it. But does anyone know about that aspect? What kind of water, how you make those systems dovetail with each other, the grey water systems and saving water, reusing water, and your crops.
Chair?
Yes, Pomutsu.
Yeah, I think there are new principles now. There's a research that we have been trying to work on agroecology. So the principles of agroecology also tells us about reusing of resources and water. So, and those who are producing organically. I don't know whether the grey water might fit into that context or not.
Right. Interesting. Very interesting questions. Okay. Right. If I can go back to recapping, we've still got a little bit of time left. I thought the Scion data system is really impressive because it is organized through the metadata services. That was fascinating to hear about that. And also really impressive that all the data is certified with the core trust seal. Right. The presentation from Sylvester Mpandeli of Water Research Commission. Sylvester, I really found that joke on your first slide very funny. I don't know how many people saw that, but this little guy having the huge atlas of doom and saying, "This is great. Now we know what to expect." And I'm afraid that when we talk about climate change, that is usually what we say is we want to know all the gory detail of what is going to happen to the planet and to us if we don't stay below an increase of 1.5 degrees Celsius. But then we don't hear, exactly what should be done to bring back to bring the planet back to a livable state. I was wondering about your annual rainfall figures because you displayed figures up to 2007, unless I missed it. What happened after that? Are we also having less annual rainfall after 2007 and increasing aridity? Has Sylvester disappeared? I think he's gone. Yes, Baished.
Yes. Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yes. Actually, I wanted to direct my question to Professor Sylvester, the WLC. I don't know if he's still around.
No,
I
he's
did.
just disappeared.
Oh, okay. I actually posed the question on the question and answer platform.
Oh,
My
okay.
question, I'm actually asking about acid mine drainage. It hasn't been mentioned during the presentations, but I sincerely believe that most of lakes, either dams or rivers in South Africa, they might be polluted or contaminated with acid mine drainage. And I wanted to know, what is it that the Water Research Commission doing in terms of finding out means to deal with this acid mine drainage contamination? That is my question. Thank you.
Right. Thank you very much, Baished. I know that they are working on areas that have acid mine drainage, and there are various researchers that are looking at the reuse of such water, extracting the heavy metals from the water and purifying the water so that it is drinkable and so that there are products that are commercializable from the waste. But I'm afraid I don't have the details for you. Is there anyone from the WRC who can address Bayeshed's question? I don't see any hands. I suggest that you ask that question again tomorrow. Do you mind raising it again?
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Right, after Sylvester, we were hearing from the department, Mhlu Ramaru. And I don't think that he's still in the Zoom, but what I always find striking about the DFFE is the number of policy documents that they actually have a very thorough library of policies which are worthwhile reading and implementing. And the question for me is always, are they being implemented? It does look very impressive, but I really would like to know how good the implementation is from that. Okay. Thank you, Siam Tando. I see you have to leave us. Thank you very much indeed. Right. So the department showed at least 9 policy documents that are relevant. One of them I saw was done in collaboration with SANBI, which is also a science council under NSTF. And I was wondering how much the science councils have worked with that department, with DFFE, on their policy documents. Are there some? Can anyone answer that?
So from Seon's side, we do collaborate a lot with the DFFE.
Okay.
In my context, obviously not on the policies themselves, but on the dissemination platforms. So, for example, all those documents that he showed will be disseminated via the National Climate Change Information System, which is currently developed at SEON. So through that, whenever they have a project that they are working on, like the climate change scenarios, it's done in partnership with the relevant organizations. For example, now with the climate scenarios, sources involved, but all the outputs will then be disseminated via the National Climate Change Information System. So we contribute from that point of view. Yeah.
Yes, fantastic. I'd like to put some links up for people to take note of tomorrow. Then quite interesting, Mr. Ramaru also referred to the work with cities and districts in the country, and I wanted to ask him more about that. Yes, Charles. Biaruhanga, Charles, you may speak. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't hear the question.
Oh, you've got your hand up.
Oh, sorry, it was an
Oh, okay. So we heard from Mr. Ramaru about climate change adaptation and the various things that they have done in terms of steering a climate change adaptation. And he said that they're also working at local level with cities and districts. And in particular with the Weather Service, COGTA, SALGA, etc. I'll just say that as a summarization point at this. Oh, yes. Then the Climate Change Act needs a response from provinces and municipalities where they outline their own climate change strategies, because they all have their unique risks. And there was a question in the Q&A about who has actually developed their strategies so far. I don't remember seeing an answer to that. Has that been answered? See, I don't think so. But that is an interesting one. I think it is quite a recent development that the Climate Change Act has been signed into law. Speak under correction. Okay, to be continued. In the Q&A to Siamtanda and Leo, since you collect vast amounts of data, do you develop machine learning or AI models to simulate climate or environmental impacts?
In our context, when it comes to AI-related work, we partner with industry. So we currently have a partnership with Zindi. They are a data science platform. So whenever we want to propose some sort of a challenge, like the most recent one was development of an algorithm for flood detection. Seon's role in that partnership is the mobilization of the data and formulation of the problem. They mobilize the skills and capacity because they've got thousands of data scientists, and then they get sponsorship from large corporations. So the last one is sponsored by Google DeepMind. We've done something with Microsoft as well in the past on image recognition, though it wasn't particularly geared towards climate change. But we find that this is the most effective and way of addressing some of the topical issues.
That is fascinating. So it's like a public-private partnership?
Yes, and there's no exchange of funds involved as well, which is a good thing.
Fantastic, yes. Ronald, thank you for that question, and Leo, thank you for the answer. Anne Fitch had put a remark in the Q&A saying, my problem is that researching waste management is less interesting than the wonderful research we have been looking at this morning. And here I'm talking about waste through leakages in the infrastructure. Indeed, that is another question. And how do you get the municipalities to take it seriously and to fix the infrastructure? Okay, we haven't specifically invited speakers on that, but that is a very important issue. Right, I'll move quite quickly now because we're basically out of time. So among the recommendations from Mr. Amaru was there need to be water responses at district government levels, protect strategic water resources, improve the early warning systems, adapt practices in integrated approach as an integrated approach addressing multiple stresses, and incorporate Indigenous knowledge with scientific insights. We've heard quite a bit about Indigenous knowledge this morning, and quite interesting how that can actually help us to address the issues that we're dealing with in terms of climate change, water, and food security. Right, and then our last speaker was Dr. Phumutso Taraga. Thank you very much to him for staying till the end, Phumutso. Thank you very much for that and for your interesting presentation. It's the first time I've heard of chill units. I know I'm ignorant, but that was very interesting. That fruit trees actually need to be cold to some extent before they can actually produce good fruit. I want to ask, is that a question of timing as well? Do they need to receive the chill units during certain months of the year? And if the season shifts and they get cold at another part of the year, does that affect fruit production?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for the question. What happens with chill units is that the fruit, the trees, they go dormant. You see, if you look at the trees during April, they start losing leaves.
Yeah.
And during that time, that's when we start seeing the accumulation of chill units, surely from May, June, July, and August. And then when they start flowering in September, you no longer want them to be exposed to cold temperatures, because now you start avoiding frost. Because
Mm,
if your flowers are hit by frost, then you're losing the whole fruit
mm,
from your
mm,
trees. So the timing is also crucial
mm.
of saying the onset of your winter, and the offset and the onset of your spring, and
Yes.
also the timing in terms of the transition between your winter and your spring. You don't want any, like what happened last year, wherein you had cold front coming in towards the end of
Mm,
September, wherein
mm,
at least some of the fruits were already on the trees, but a lot of fruit farmers, even the cash crop farmers, they lost a lot of crops because
mm,
of that late frost. So you
mm.
don't want frost after flowering. That's the
Right.
other thing. So you don't want them to be exposed to cold temperatures at minus below zero
Right.
or below
Right.
2 degrees, because some they cannot withstand those temperatures.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there anything that farmers can do when that happens, when there's a sudden cold front after the trees start flowering?
Yeah, after the tree starts flowering, what we do, I can give you an example of what we were doing with Rotonda walnuts in Alwal North. We
Yeah.
do what we call, we start implementing frost management plan of saying, okay, now we start monitoring intensively the weather forecast, and look at the cold fronts, and we have what we call the weather stations, or small hobos in the orchards,
Ah,
which we use them for what we call frost alarms. So
ah,
we know that, okay, when the temperatures are starting to drop at a certain time of the night, or at a certain time during the dawn, we start irrigating, so that, or we start, some they use what you call wind machines, so that they can start blowing. I saw some of the big wind machines which they are using in Italy, in one of the pomegranate farms. Even in Northern Cape, some of my students, they still contact me and say, okay, can we start monitoring the frost together for the farms around the Northern Cape, Appington, Ograbis, Onsepkans, and Kakamas, and that area. So I still work with them, those students who go back to the farm and start farming, so that we can monitor frost together, using the theory and also the practice which we have learned together, saying, okay, if you have wind machines, if you have irrigation system, you know when to start irrigation, how to prepare. If you are going to ban some they ban tires, which is not wise, but it is useful for creating that invention layer, so that you can have a mixing. Some of them, what I've realized is that they have what we call, they have they have wind breaks. And the problem is that those wind breaks were meant to protect the fruit trees when they were young. But now that the fruit trees are old, they no longer need those wind breaks. So those wind breaks, they create what we call frost pockets within the farms. So what we advise them is to say, okay, please now create air passages, cut some of the wind breaks, so that the air can pass through, and mix, warm air will be mixed with cold air, to avoid frost pockets within your orchard.
fascinating. My goodness. I mean, this is like essential knowledge for all fruit farmers, or even people who have fruit trees and get fruit occasionally from their trees. Thank you very much for that. Sipho, Tunisi.
Thank you, program director. My question also goes to the person who just spoke now, because he's speaking about a very interesting concept, but we don't know it, some of us. So we're just going to ask
Mm,
questions also out of curiosity. So now what I understand about chill units, I don't know anything, but I think I know that they talk about low temperatures so that they can optimize the growth and the production of fruits. So what about fruits that are susceptible to chill injuries? How do they come about in ensuring that they do not get exposed to chill injuries? Because chill injuries affect the quality of fruits. Thank you.
okay, thank you, Sipho.
Oh, okay, thank you. Sipo, the chill index, the chill injuries, or the freeze injuries, those happened more especially when the early development of fruits, and then you have a certain sudden temperature drops. So that is already beyond your spring time. That mainly happen in from October, depending on the fruit tree or which one, because they are early ripening or early cultivars or early fruit trees like apricots and sweet cherries. They are very short season. So those ones, in order to protect those against some of the farmers, they spray some of the like the coatings, but the freeze problem is not really a major problem in southern Africa, actually, in the areas where I've been working, more especially in the Northern Cape. But unless all of a sudden we have what happened last year with that cold front, which was it was unusual actually, because it is once in 10 years or in 15 years time. So it was an unusual cold front. So those there are some things we cannot, some most of them they use what you call the nets. Those are which are under the nets. They create what we call the heaters. They have the heating systems that they will plug them, or they will create a heat underneath in the surface, in the floor of the orchards, and that heat will remain will remain within the microclimate of the orchard. It's a system called microclimate manipulation. So manipulate the microclimate to remain warm even during the cold temperatures times.
Very interesting.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Indeed. And of course, we export fruits as South Africa, and wine. And so this is, it can have major economic impacts if it isn't managed well.
Oh yes, the impact on exports is huge, and we have competitors now from Chile and Argentina and Peru. So
Yes.
last week when in the conference we had like around 15 farmers from South Africa who attended the conference in pomegranates, and we also had buyers from Europe, from Middle East, and also we have those who works in the pack house. So it was a whole value chain. You have the producers, you have the pack house guys, you have the buyers, and the buyers will be like, guys from South Africa, beware of what is happening in Peru, because Peru is starting to be the flooding the market earlier than you guys. What is happening with you? So they even give you alert on which countries are doing what. And then in order to remain competitive, we need to also try to find cultivars that will start flooding them in the market earlier than other countries, so that we can get the better value for money.
I see. My goodness. Well, I hope those farmers in the Eastern Free State are listening and are going to be cultivating a variety of fruits now that the fruit chill factor is positive.
Yeah, it's on their side now. It's that if you go to Bethlehem and Fixburg and Clocolan, you will hear them starting to say it's getting colder than normal. It used to be colder, but now it's getting way much colder. So they are starting to experience that, and the length of winter also is now prolonged as compared to what it used to be.
I'm sure the people aren't very happy. Bethlehem has always been quite a cold place. But yes, there's a great silver lining to this bad news of the cold, and that is
Yes,
the fruit.
the fruit
Will be
industry,
very
yes.
happy. Yeah.
But the wheat
Fascinating,
industry is
Pumuzo.
not gonna be happy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think we could go on all afternoon, but I think we have to wrap up. We have come to the end of this discussion forum. Thank you very much to our expert speakers, Pumuzo and Leo, and the others who have left by now. Thank you to our audience for staying till the end, and for those who have interacted, asked their questions aloud, Anne and Sipo in particular, and then those who have posted in the Q&A as well. If you have further questions, please bring them tomorrow. We will be meeting again at 9 o'clock sharp, and we have another interesting lineup of speakers. So what you didn't manage to raise or ask, you will have an opportunity to do so tomorrow. So keep well until then, and thank you for attending.
Thank you, Program Director. Enjoy your
Thank
day.
you.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.